Call Hugh Aynesworth on speakerphone.
Calling Hugh Aynesworth.
Hello.
Hello, Mr. Aynesworth. Good morning. It's Vince Leahy calling.
Yeah, Vince, how are you this morning?
I'm great. Did I catch you at a good time?
Yeah, this is a good time, sure.
Oh, excellent. Well, thank you for taking my call. And I do have to ask you, is it okay if I record this call for use in my... Oh, okay, fantastic.
Sure.
Well, thank you very much. And can we go back to your first introduction? And I'm curious to know, how did he get word to you that he thought you were the man to tell his story?
Well, he didn't. It came about this way. I was with 2020, and I was not going to renew the contract. And I was going to go back to Texas to do something. But anyway, about that same time, Simon and Schuster, there were three stories out at that time about who is this guy Bundy? Is he a real serial killer, or is it all these things fouled up? And you know how things do get lost between jurisdictions, and
sure,
there are jealousies involved in law enforcement and as well as elsewhere. And sometimes, it was sort of an interesting situation because of his background, and he was fairly bright, not overly, not like a lot of people have painted him, really.
Right.
He could talk to you on any subject, but he was about an inch thick. And that's why he was so successful in picking up hitchhikers and picking up women at college. You don't have to be too deep,
Right.
Anyway, Simon and Schuster contacted my partner, Stephen Michaud. So Stephen called me immediately and said, "Would you be interested?" And I said, "I don't know anything about him." Anyway, we got together and met with his girlfriend. She wasn't his wife then. We went up to Washington and met with her, and we sort of, she said, "Well, he's innocent." Of course, all his friends believed that. They just couldn't believe what this guy had done.
Right.
So we came to an agreement. I was a licensed private investigator at the time, as well as working in journalism,
Uh-huh.
And so I told Stephen, "Well, I'll get you a privatized license, and that way we can get in," because they wouldn't let any press people in, just as press. So we both got, we had private investigators' licenses. That way we could hook on with the defense attorneys and go in and out of the prison, and that's what we did. Almost 100 hours with him,
Yeah. When you spend that much time with Bundy, what are you left thinking about the man?
Well, it was a combination of things, and really, it was tough for me because I had two teenage daughters at the time, and he had no respect, no caring about anybody, and we didn't realize how vile he really was till later on.
Right.
But we decided to get with his girlfriend and a couple of lawyer friends of his in Seattle, and we made an agreement with Simon and Schuster, and we knew it was going to take a lot of investigative effort. So I had the job, and this was really strange because Stephen is 10, 15 years younger than me, and he grew up in the same town as where Ted was, where he was born. Was it Vermont, or what's the little town?
He was born in.
His home?
He was born in Burlington.
Burlington, Stephen came out of Burlington too.
Okay.
Later, they both moved to Seattle area.
Oh wow.
Now, what's the odds on that?
Yeah.
So it gave us a good starting point. Stephen could go in and interview Ted the first 2 or 3 months, while I would go back out to the Northwest and reinvestigate all the murders that he was accused of or thought to be, thought to have done.
So you really did investigative work.
Yeah, I investigated 20-some murders. Okay. And there was no doubt from the first few days that I knew that he was guilty of several,
Right.
But that was sort of tough. And I don't know, he agreed to talk in the third person, but not not outright. And the reason he did that, he had to do that because he had these backing groups who were raising money for him.
Right.
You know, he had all these people that believed in him, and if they agreed that, boy, we could investigate because we were a private investigator. If we found him innocent, that would be, what a wonderful thing that would be for them. So they raised a lot of money there in the early months. And so Stephen went in, and they even knew some people together in the Seattle area.
Oh, wow.
That's how bizarre this whole thing was.
Wow.
And then I came in about 3 or 4 months later, and I knew exactly what he'd done in many of these cases. He wouldn't admit it. He would talk in the third person, but it didn't work because, you know, I could see where the holes were, and we knew immediately, almost within days. But still, we just kept going and kept talking because he promised us one time. He said, what you need to do, Hugh, let me write the first chapter, the Chi Omega thing. Let me write that. I said, wonderful.
Right.
Yeah. Why not? Well, he hedged and him and hawed on that and one thing and another. And he got pissed at me at regular intervals, and that never happened. And Simon and Schuster was pissed because they were told they were going to get a first chapter by him and then the rest by us.
Right.
And it just never happened. But so it was touch and go, and he hated my guts. He got along with Stephen really, really well because they had, as I said, even mutual friends. Not too many, but they knew people in Washington together. And with me, I was the hard-nosed guy, you know.
Yeah. Well, do you
and
think
he
that?
hated my guts.
Do you think that he hated you because he knew you knew?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
And I kept giving it to him too. I'd say, this is a bizarre situation. You know you did it. You son of a bitch, tell me about it. You know.
Right.
Some of it was not very, very, very good.
Did you ever find yourself wanting to sort of punch him in the nose or throttle him? Did you have that experience, that level of frustration, or was he good at keeping you from getting angry?
Oh, we both got angry at each other. Yeah, we both did. But sometimes it affected me. Like I said, I had 2 teenage daughters, and he had no respect, no care, no nothing, no feeling for any of the victims.
Well,
and particularly when we found out, you know, some of the people, the girls have been molested after death. That was the brutal thing. But you know, one thing I'll tell you just out of the top of my mind here, I would find myself sometimes looking at his hands, staring, and almost lost my train of thought, because I thought, those are the hands that have killed a lot of people. He strangled a lot of people.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. When you got to the topic of Caryn Campbell, if I could, I'll just quote what you wrote in the book, so it sort of might bring back a memory to you. Do you mind?
Well, that would help, because that book came out in '83.
Right,
you know?
right. So you said to Ted, okay, let's veer off. Let's talk about something you're familiar with elsewhere, the Caryn Campbell case. Most people think the evidence there was very slim, very slim. There was no real eyewitness. Let's talk about what do you think happened in the Campbell case? How would a man like this, would he approach her as she was going up to her room and talk to her, represent that you were a police officer and ask her where she was going? What would you, or how would you have done that? In the Caryn Campbell case, what I think, the way I understand it is he was standing outside in minus 30-degree weather outside of her in the outdoor hallway just outside of the elevator, and when she came out, he was on crutches. She asked him if he needed help, and she helped him get his ski boots to the car, and he would have hit her with a tire iron at that point or something, and then put her in the car and taken her somewhere.
Obviously, he was waiting for her outside.
Right, and the part that no one seems to he never described was, what did he do once he put her in that car? In one incident, he said, I did the usual things, which one then could assume he probably raped her and strangled her and then threw her nude body in a snowbank.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what we figured.
But you did ask him, and he did hem and haw about staying in a hotel room. They were looking for Bundy, and he said, well, they were looking for people in hotel rooms around with one single name, and what they might have been smarter doing was looking for people with two names on their hotel room, because someone might have thought to put two names instead of one. And his never.
I vaguely recall that. We just figured that he must have had a room there.
Right, because it's an 800-mile round trip, and that's what I'm trying to figure out is, did he stay there? Did he go skiing? And if he did, is there any record of that?
I don't know that he would have been going skiing. No, I don't. I think he had other things on his mind, and this was a very touchy time in his career. I don't think he was going to, have anything like skiing or any fun on his mind. When he got going, sometimes it was so intense. That's why he did 2 or 3 in a short period of time.
Right. What role do you think alcohol played in his mindset?
Well, I don't think he drank well, and he admitted that. He got real drunk, and some of his escapades, shoplifting even, he was drunk, and it gave him he wasn't that brave a guy, but alcohol did affect him a whole lot.
Yeah.
And I think a little marijuana here and there too.
Yeah, you had said once that he came to an interview, maybe even this one, where he talked about Campbell's murder, high, that he was able to find marijuana in a maximum security prison while still on death row.
Yes, that's true. Well, he managed to get his wife pregnant behind the Coke machine too.
Yeah. Now, there's some theories on that. What's your theory on how he got her pregnant?
Well, he just screwed her behind the Coke machine. He told me that.
Oh, he did? Somebody said once, where I read once, that he put his semen in a surgical glove, and that she then inserted it.
No, I don't believe that at all. We were sitting in that room, and I was saying, these people were groping each other. There's big old tables that seat about 5 or 6, and they're concrete. You don't move the tables around, and I said, look at those people over there. They're damn near having sex right there, and nobody's paying any attention to them. And he said, yeah. He said, one guy went behind that Coke machine over there one time. This was before he did it.
Uh-huh.
But
just keeping on the sort of the theater of the absurd with Bundy, though, he did marry his wife in the courtroom in Florida as well, right?
Yeah, we set that up.
You set it up?
Well, Stephen more than me, but the two of us combined and went to, told Simon and Schuster. We had found out that Florida has a law that if you stand up in court and say, I want to marry you, and the other person said, I want to marry you, that is legally marriage. And that's what we did in Florida. And Simon and Schuster, our editor there, bought the wedding ring.
Oh my gosh. So you are a part of the theater of the absurd.
Yes, I guess you'd say so.
Because, and I have to share this with you, Mr. Aynesworth, because down in Glenwood Springs, I found some footage, and it turns out I found the guy who shot it. And I said, do you recall Bundy getting a birthday cake in jail in Glenwood Springs in 77? It would have been November of 77. And he said, not only do I remember it, I shot it, and I got the cake. I gave it to the sheriff, and the sheriff gave it to Bundy. And so here is another... Here's another piece of the absurd, but it's really, it was the media that helped to create it.
Oh, yeah.
So,
well, there's never been anyone quite this attractive accused of murdering so many people.
Yeah.
He was the darling of that ilk.
Do you think that Bundy was a sociopath, a psychopath, or a combination of the two?
I'm not qualified, really. I've heard arguments on all sides, but he was just a devious, nasty killer. I have to tell you that Bundy, till his last days with us, and I'm told from other people that had access to him in those final hours, he was always try to understand what happened to himself. He really was. We
Yeah.
spent a lot of time going over that, this, that, and the other. And of course, I think, and I'm not qualified as an expert, but he had a love-hate situation with his mother. When she had him illegitimately, and then she told him that, made up a story about the guy, and didn't tell him about it. He found out by accident when he was about 15, as I recall. So that affected him tremendously. And he spoke, he said he loved his mother. He always said that. But when you get into it, it was a love-hate situation. And I think that jumps out at me more than anything else.
Did you go down in the last 48 hours when Bundy was starting to tell his story at greater length?
Yeah, I did. I couldn't get in, though.
Oh, you couldn't?
But I was there, in the crowd. God, it was a wild melee. It was like a carnival across from the prison.
Yeah.
There were a couple of hundred people there, press.
And quite a few people on the night of his execution that were holding up signs and things that I've seen video of that were excited to see him.
The night before?
Yeah, when they were...
Because he was executed in the morning,
Right, it's, pretty early.
We always had this cantankerous relationship, and the last interview I told him, Ted, I feel sorry that you had so much to start with, and you had so much in the future, but you just messed it all up. I feel real sorry what's happened to you. And he said, well, he said, I don't know and understand it completely, but he said, thank you so much. I think more of you now since you said that to me. He was, I don't know, he's just a strange bird, and I felt very sorry for him because he was searching for what happened. What the hell happened to me, At one time, I don't know whether we wrote this in the books or not, but there was a situation that was really interesting. When he knew that the time might be near, he was thinking about making a deal. He said, I don't know how to do this, but he said, maybe if I confess and tell them everything and, tell them everything they want to know, maybe they'd give me a couple, 3 years to study my brain,
Right.
Study me. And I agreed to go to the governor, and I said, the governor's got to do that. Nobody else can. And he said, well, okay. So I went to the governor, and they turned it down flat. The attorney general and the governor, I forget his name. And I went back, and he denied. He said, well, I never told you to do that. And I said, no, you didn't tell me. I offered to do it. You told me you would hope they would come up with that. And he said, no, I didn't. And I said, look, you lying son of a bitch. I played him the tape.
Oh, great.
Of the previous deal where we talked about it,
You spoke about how he wasn't particularly intelligent. I mean, he was okay, but about an inch thick, as a book would go. But do you recall Mike Fisher, when he went to interview Bundy for the first time in Salt Lake City, and he had the credit card receipts that put Bundy in Glenwood Springs, and he asked Bundy that line of questions of, do you recall being in Aspen? Do you recall being in Colorado? And Bundy just denied until he showed him the credit card receipts, and then he just went, oh yeah, well I guess if you have that, then yes, I guess I was there. So,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
he really was not good at the lies oftentimes.
No.
He
Really what?
basically just went with deny until they show you otherwise.
Yes.
But it was interesting to me, you said to Bundy almost exactly what the judge said when he sentenced him to death. Basically, you're a good guy. It all went wrong, and you made a lot of bad decisions.
Yeah.
But he said he didn't hold any, he didn't have any bad feelings towards Bundy, and you feel that as well?
Oh, I had such mixed feelings because, as I said, I had 2 teenage daughters. Most of the people he was killing were young girls, and he had no respect, he had no deference, he didn't care, and particularly after I found out that he mutilated and had sex with them after death. I mean, it was just it was so bizarre, and yet there was a part of me that felt very sorry for the guy.
Thanks so much, Mr. Aynesworth. What a pleasure. I really appreciate your time.
Okay, well, I'm here if you need me.
Okay, thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.